Colonel Tom Parker has gone down in history as a malevolent leech, the Svengali like cigar chomping, iron fisted manager of the king of rock and roll. That's the myth. The man he, in fact, wanted the world to see. He chose to play the heavy when the situation called for that. Quote, the artist always wears the white hat, Parker said more times than I can care to remember. The artist, of course, was Elvis Aaron Presley. The mantle Colonel Parker wore, rightly or wrongly, for decades was easy for the press and public to digest, offering a clean and palatable story with no shades of gray. Elvis could remain a saintly figure if Colonel Parker remained the heavy. Despite his Carnival Barker demeanor and P.T. Barnum like facade, the real Tom Parker was nowhere near his public persona. He conveyed that image because he constantly had to do battle with businessmen, bean counters, and lawyers who had Ivy League backgrounds and lots of credentials hanging on their walls. The colonel only had his street smarts and his reputation to fend off the wolves, and he used both to his advantage. His negotiations were great theater because he elevated it to an art form. I've always contended that the colonel was a much better actor than Elvis Presley ever was. He created a persona to instill fear in his opponents across the table so he could get the best deal possible for his client. So, what is truth? What is legend? What is misunderstood or misjudged? And what is false? What history and countless other books on Elvis Presley don't tell you is that Colonel Parker was the first mega manager who made forays into today's multimedia world of music, film, television, publishing, and Las Vegas style entertainment. Parker, along with his once and millennia star, Elvis Presley, blazed many paths in the span of 2 decades. Elvis, the artist, and Parker, the enigmatic manager who made it happen behind the scenes, were the greatest pairing in entertainment history. Though the Colonel may have actually appeared to many to be shrewd, flamboyant, crass, and brash, in actuality, he was fair-minded, loyal, funny, a 27-4 workhorse, a man whose word was his bond, and even philanthropic in private. Many of Elvis Presley's artistic endeavors had a charitable aspect to them thanks to Colonel Parker's prompting. The two men provided major support through financial contributions and raising awareness for several charities throughout their 2 decades of success, including the USSA Memorial in Hawaii, March of Dimes, the Salvation Army, St. Jude's Hospital, and the Kylie Cancer Fund. Colonel Parker was also a lifelong animal lover and even once worked for the Humane Society in Tampa. Colonel Parker made sure to give fans, concert promoters, and business clients their full value while at the same time leaving them wanting more. Conversely, he got his client the best deals possible for the maximum amount of money. He was getting Elvis nearly $1 million a movie and 50% of the box office net, when the biggest stars in Hollywood might have gotten 10% at most. Colonel Parker got those extraordinary deals because of his savvy and smarts. He was also strategic and zen-like in his feats. Get his client the maximum deal while saving enough gravy for those who sat across the bargaining table from him. Others wanted his services too. The Beatles, Frank Sinatra, George Hamilton, Anne Margaret, Tony Orlando, Tanya Tucker, they all wanted Colonel Parker to manage them. I remember when one of the Beatles, I believe it was Paul McCartney, called Colonel Parker at his Palm Springs house shortly after the death of Beatles manager Brian Epstein in late August 1967. He took the call, excusing himself to another room. After he got on the phone, he said he couldn't take them on because of his loyalty to Elvis. It was a testament to his greatness as a manager that the Beatles wanted him. The fact that he turned them down was a testament to his belief in his client. All business dealings were done in military-like precision and secrecy. Parker kept his mouth shut for several reasons. What he was concealing was far more astounding and complex than has ever been revealed. While an uneducated Dutch farm boy who grew up in a modest apartment above horse stables, he also had an innate knack for creating a spectacle and weaving the public heart and soul into it. The Nashville scene, Hollywood, and Las Vegas were not going to be a match for him. Before he got to the top, Colonel Parker rode the rails as a hobo sailed around the world in the Merchant Marines, served 4 years in the U.S. Army, spent a decade as a traveling carny perfecting his act. He understood human behavior and learned how to squeeze a nickel out of it all, making him the perfect power behind the entertainment throne. Colonel Parker arrived in this country a penniless immigrant who had to overcome a language barrier and to battle discrimination and bias. Yet he came to befriend U.S. presidents and CEOs, and he created a cultural icon for the decades who generated $4 billion in his lifetime, all while managing to keep a low profile. There have literally been hundreds of books written about Elvis and a few about Colonel Parker. However, none of those writers and biographers were ever in the room when the deals went down, but I was. I knew Colonel Parker for almost 4 decades from the time I was a kid. I drove him around Los Angeles when Elvis was making movies in Hollywood, hung out with him when Elvis started his Las Vegas residency, traveled with him when Elvis started touring again, and spent countless hours with him in his office in Palm Springs, California. I saw firsthand how Colonel Parker worked, how he played, which was not very often since he was a workaholic, how he negotiated contracts, and how he made sure there was enough honey to go around. And I know how the deals were made. I can tell you this: nothing went down without Elvis's knowledge and consent. And Colonel Parker earned every penny of whatever went into his pocket. Rest assured, way more money went into his client's pocket. Many biographers and people in Elvis's inner circle have inaccurately portrayed their business and personal relationship because of their lack of knowledge. They only knew a fraction of the story. They did their best to investigate or find out. However, they couldn't peer into the character of Tom Parker, which is essential to the story. First and foremost, Colonel Parker never talked business to outsiders. While he might have hyped his client to the press, he never spoke of the details of the business. The same went for Elvis. Their business dealings were strictly private and between them. These two men will forever be entwined in history like other famous business partnerships: Henry Wells and William G. Fargo, William Proctor and James Gamble, Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard. They made beautiful music together, metaphorically speaking. But Elvis has gone down as the bright half of the pairing, whereas Parker has always been chased by a reputation as the dark half. My hope with this book is to dispel that myth and all the negative feelings associated with a man who has been nothing but kind to me and my family. This is a story who could give P.T. Barnum a run for his money, the grand visor of aggrandizement, the Pisha of pizzazz, the Baron of ballyhoo. Ever wonder where rain checks, concert t-shirts, tour books, and mass merchandise came from? The answer is Colonel Parker. He could sell tickets to 2 flies wrestling on a window plane, and the line would go around the block. He is the all-American immigrant's tale, a poor Dutch farm boy who came to the United States seeking and achieving the American dream and introducing the world's greatest entertainer to the world in the process. And it's better than any movie you could imagine.
Man, Greg. So that is Elvis and the Colonel, an insider's look at the most legendary partnership in show business. Greg McDonald, Marshall Terrill. And Marshall, the book's out today, November 28th. Where's it going to be at? How can we get a copy? I'm going to put the links in the description here so fans can easily click and order. Amazon, Books A Million, where would it go be at?
Everywhere. Amazon. Go to the St. Martin's book link there. Any place that sells books, bookstores, it'll be widely available. St. Martin's, who is promoting this book, has done a fantastic job. I mean, they've gotten it out everywhere. They really believed in this book, and we hope it'll have a pretty big impact.
Oh, it is. I read this book, guys, in 3 days. It's 350 pages. And I was just, man, page after page, I was learning stuff that I didn't know. And stuff was making more sense to me now. Like I said, I went into it respecting Colonel already. I mean, I give Colonel his props, as y'all know on this episode. And so that's why I want y'all to go in with an open mind. If you hate Colonel, please read this book. If you love Colonel, please read this book. I think it'll be beneficial to everyone.